Imagine you get, let's say, a 20% raise at work.
Ah, that's a good day.
Right. You celebrate, you feel fantastic, and you tell yourself that this is the moment everything changes.
Like, finally.
Yeah, exactly. You're finally going to build that emergency fund, pay off the credit card, get ahead. But somehow, like 6 months later, you look at your bank account and you actually have less money in savings than you did before the promotion.
Yeah, it's the classic trap. Your income goes up, but your financial anxiety somehow just goes up right along with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I always wonder why human nature wires us to financially sabotage ourselves like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we approach money with this expectation of just brute force willpower.
We really do.
We think that if we just, grip the steering wheel tighter, grit our teeth, and download some highly complex spreadsheet, we'll suddenly transform into these disciplined wealth builders.
But willpower is a highly exhaustible resource.
Right.
If you treat personal finance like lifting a tremendously heavy weight, your muscles are eventually going to give out.
They have to.
Yeah, we are looking at this modern landscape where starting a budget feels incredibly empowering on the first day of the month. You sit down, you color code your categories, you feel totally in control.
Oh, I've been there. The highlighters come out.
Totally. And by day 14, the entire system has completely collapsed because you had a bad day at the office and bought a coffee and a pastry.
And welcome to Amateurology, everyone. Today, we are exploring that exact behavioral phenomenon. We're looking directly at you, the listener, and acknowledging this universal, deeply human anxiety around money management.
Because it's so common.
It really is. Why do traditional systems feel like a straitjacket? Why is it that the very tools designed to give us financial freedom usually end up making us feel, well, trapped and guilty?
And that is exactly what we are breaking down in our session today. We are taking the insights from some of the most influential financial minds of the last century.
We've got a lot of them today.
We do. We're looking at authors and researchers like Dave Ramsey, Ramit Sethi, Thomas Stanley, George S. Clason, Vicki Robin, Emma Edwards, Richard Thaler, and John Bogle.
That is quite a lineup.
Yeah, and our mission isn't just to summarize their books. We are synthesizing their methodologies to uncover the hidden psychology of money.
Because honestly, if you walk into a bookstore and look at the personal finance section, the sheer volume of contradictory advice is staggering.
It's completely overwhelming.
Right. Like one expert tells you to literally cut up your credit cards, while the guy on the next shelf tells you to leverage them for travel points.
Yeah, one says track every penny, the other says never look at a spreadsheet.
So how do we even begin to find the truth in all that noise?
Well, we have to start with a foundational framework, which is the realization that winning with money is roughly 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge.
80-20. Okay.
Yeah, that's a concept Dave Ramsey often highlights, and it's entirely accurate. You just cannot outmath a bad habit.
So true.
There is absolutely no one-size-fits-all solution because, well, no two human brains process risk and reward in the exact same way. So we are going to thoroughly analyze 5 distinct methodologies today.
And we'll look at the philosophy behind them, the actual mechanics of how they operate, and most importantly, the psychological levers they pull.
Exactly.
But I want to make sure this doesn't stay purely theoretical, because theories are great, but they shatter on contact with reality.
They usually do.
Yeah. So to keep us grounded, we are going to follow a hypothetical international case study throughout our conversation. Let's introduce the Chen-Davis family.
Okay, tell me about them.
So they live in London, which has a notoriously high cost of living. David is a salaried teacher. His income is predictable, reliable, but perhaps a bit rigid.
Right. He knows what he's getting every month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wei, on the other hand, is a freelance graphic designer. Her income is a total roller coaster. Some months are incredible, and other months she brings in almost nothing.
Oh, they are a fantastic representation of the modern, complex household.
I think so, too. They have some moderate consumer debt hanging over their heads. They constantly struggle with overspending on dining out because they genuinely love the vibrant London food scene.
Which is easy to do in London.
Very easy. And they carry this lingering, low-grade anxiety about their future. So as we explore each of the 5 methods, we're going to track exactly how David and Wei would implement it and where the system might create friction in their actual lives.
I love that. Let's dive into it. Let's start with a scenario that I think a lot of people unfortunately relate to. Let's say someone is drowning.
Total financial chaos.
Exactly. Debt collectors are calling, there's no savings, and the stress is literally keeping them awake at night. If the house is actively on fire, we don't need a philosophical discussion about the nature of money.
No, you need water. What is the emergency protocol?
In a financial emergency, you call in the strict disciplinarian. This
Okay.
is our first methodology, officially known as zero-based budgeting,
Ah, okay.
and it is most famously championed by Dave Ramsey in his book, The Total Money Makeover.
Right, Dave Ramsey, the guy who famously tells people to live on beans and rice and to physically cut up their credit cards with a pair of heavy-duty scissors.
That's the one.
It's an aggressive stance. What is the actual philosophy driving that level of extremity?
So the underlying philosophy is that discipline and behavioral modification must entirely override mathematics.
Okay, how so?
Ramsey's core mantra is income minus outgo equals zero. He argues that money is inherently active. If you do not proactively tell your money exactly where to go before the month begins, you will inevitably spend the rest of the month wondering where it went.
That makes sense.
And he relies heavily on the concept of gazelle intensity.
Gazelle intensity.
Yeah, it's this idea that you must run away from debt with the exact same blind, desperate focus that a gazelle uses to escape a cheetah.
Wow, okay, so the philosophy is extreme ownership and intense focus. But how does that translate mechanically? Like if I'm sitting at my kitchen table, how do I actually execute a zero-based budget?
It functions by ensuring that every single unit of currency you earn is assigned a specific name or job before the month even begins.
So no mystery money.
None. You leave zero room for ambiguity. You start by writing down your total expected income for the upcoming month. Then you list every single expected expense.
Everything.
I mean, everything. Rent, groceries, the electric bill, but also the $10 you plan to spend on a birthday card for your niece.
Oh, wow. Very granular.
Very. You subtract those expenses from your income, and you keep adjusting your categories until the final result is exactly zero.
Wait, exactly zero. What if I do the math and I have like $200 left over? Shouldn't I just leave a cushion in my checking account?
According to the strict disciplinarian model, absolutely not.
Really?
Why? Because if you leave $200 floating in your account unassigned, human nature dictates you will unconsciously spend it on fast food or online shopping.
I mean, that is probably true for me.
Right. You must assign that $200 a specific job, you allocate it to an emergency fund, or you assign it to debt repayment. Every single dollar gets a marching order.
Okay, so once the budget is set, then what?
Then you follow Ramsey's baby steps. You quickly save a tiny starter emergency fund of $1,000, and then you attack your debt using the debt snowball method.
Ah, the debt snowball. Okay, I have to push back hard on this one because this is where the strict disciplinarian method completely abandons logic, in my opinion.
Let's hear it.
So the debt snowball dictates that you list all your debts from the smallest balance to the largest balance, and you pay off the smallest one first, completely ignoring the interest rates.
That's right.
But mathematically, if I have a payday loan at a 30% interest rate and a tiny medical bill at 0% interest, paying the medical bill first is mathematically absurd. It will cost me thousands of dollars in extra interest over time.
On paper, you are completely correct.
So why on earth would any financial expert advise ignoring the math?
Because, as Ramsey often points out to his critics, if you are actually good at math, you wouldn't be sitting in $30,000 of credit card debt in the first place.
Oh, that's a harsh truth.
It is. The debt snowball is not a mathematical equation. It is a purely psychological intervention.
But how does paying more in interest help my psychology?
It's about the neurochemistry of motivation. When you pay off that tiny $50 medical bill, you get to literally cross a line through it on your paper.
Okay, yeah, crossing things off lists feels good.
Exactly. Your brain releases a massive hit of dopamine. You experience a concrete, undeniable psychological win. That win creates hope, and hope creates that gazelle intensity needed to tackle the next debt on the list.
I see.
If you prioritize mathematical optimization by attacking a massive student loan with a high interest rate, you might go 8 months without seeing a single debt eliminated.
And most humans can't sustain motivation for 8 months without a reward.
Precisely. They burn out and quit. Prioritizing momentum over mathematics is the entire secret to the system.
I get it now. It's a behavioral trick to keep you in the game. It really is like a military drill sergeant. No dollars allowed to go AWOL. You have absolute granular control over your finances.
You do.
I can see how, if you are chaotic with money, this would be incredibly effective for stopping the bleeding and rapidly eliminating debt.
The pros are undeniable for people in crisis. It forces you to confront your reality. But the cons are equally steep.
I can imagine. It sounds exhausting.
It is highly restrictive. It requires constant monthly maintenance. You can't just make one budget and coast. You have to sit down and do a brand new zero-based budget every single month because no 2 months have the exact same expenses.
Right, there's always something different. What's the primary risk of adopting this lifestyle?
Total burnout. If you are too strict, if you don't assign any money for fun or relaxation because you are so focused on gazelle intensity, it mimics a crash diet.
Well, and crash diets never work long term.
Never. You starve yourself of any joy, and eventually your willpower snaps. You rebel against your own rules, binge spend on a weekend, feel immense shame, and abandon the system entirely.
So who is this specifically designed for, and who should avoid it?
It is perfectly suited for people actively drowning in debt, chronic overspenders who have literally no idea where their paycheck goes, and individuals who thrive on strict, rigid rules to break deeply destructive habits.
And who is it least suitable for?
Highly unsuitable for naturally disciplined savers, people who are already debt-free and looking to optimize wealth, or individuals who strongly resent micromanagement and feel paralyzed by spreadsheets.
What's the most common mistake people make when they try to become strict disciplinarians?
Trying to write the perfect budget in month 1?
It's impossible.
It is. It almost always takes about 3 months of failure and tweaking to calibrate a budget accurately to your actual life.
That makes sense.
The other massive mistake is forgetting irregular annual expenses. People budget perfectly for August, but forget that their car insurance is due in September. And when that bill hits, it blows the entire zero-based budget out of the water, causing them to quit in frustration.
Well, let's bring in the Chen-Davis family. They are sitting at their kitchen table in London. How do they actually apply this zero-based approach?
Well, this is where we see the immediate friction in the system. David's teaching salary is easy to project, but Wei's freelance income is entirely unpredictable. She doesn't know if she's making £3,000 or £0 next month.
So how can they assign every pound a name if they don't know how many pounds exist?
Under this strict model, they have to project a highly conservative estimate for Wei's income.
Like, assuming the worst-case scenario.
Exactly. They must base their core survival budget, rent, groceries, basic utilities, on her absolute lowest historically earning month, combined with David's salary.
Okay, but what if Wei ends up landing a big client and earning more than that conservative estimate? Can they use that surplus to go out to an expensive dinner in Soho?
No, absolutely not. That surplus is immediately weaponized. They throw every extra pound directly at their credit card debt, using the debt snowball, paying the smallest balance first to get that dopamine hit.
Oh, man. So it requires Wei to sacrifice the immediate reward of her hard work for the long-term goal of debt elimination.
Exactly, which can cause a lot of resentment.
That sounds incredibly taxing on a marriage. What if I absolutely hate tracking every penny? What if the idea of a monthly budget meeting makes me want to pull my hair out and zero-based budgeting feels entirely too suffocating?
A lot of people feel that way.
I know myself, and I will not update a spreadsheet on a Tuesday night. It's just not going to happen.
If you lack that specific type of organizational willpower, we pivot entirely to our second methodology. This approach aggressively rejects the very concept of budgets. We call this the automator.
I know exactly who this is. This is Ramit Sethi and his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Spot on.
I find this approach fascinating because it feels almost like financial heresy. He essentially says budgets are completely useless for most people. What is the philosophy driving that?
Sethi's philosophy aligns perfectly with your frustration. He argues that traditional budgets fail for the exact same reason calorie-counting diets usually fail. They rely entirely on human willpower, and willpower is finite.
So what's the alternative?
Instead of trying to force yourself to be disciplined, you should acknowledge your natural laziness and automate your finances. His core philosophy is a paradox. Spend extravagantly on the things you truly love and cut costs mercilessly on the things you don't care about.
Okay, I love the sound of spending extravagantly, but how does that actually work mechanically without going bankrupt? How do I build a system that relies on me doing nothing?
It relies on two structural pillars, the 60% solution and the automatic money flow. You essentially build a machine using your bank's routing software.
Break that down for me. How do I build the machine?
First, you have to do some hard math upfront. You calculate your fixed survival costs, rent, basic utilities, minimum debt payments, necessary groceries.
Okay.
You must engineer your life so these fixed costs remain under 60% of your take-home pay. That is the non-negotiable foundation.
Got it. So if I take home, let's say, $4,000 a month. My rent and bills can't exceed $2,400. What happens to the remaining 40%?
This is where the automation kicks in. You link all your financial accounts together. Your checking, your high-yield savings, your investment accounts.
All connected online.
Yes. You go into your bank's portal and set up automated transfers to occur the exact day after your paycheck hits. 10% automatically routes to investments, 10% routes to short-term savings like a vacation fund. It happens completely invisibly.
And the remaining 20%?
That 20% is left in your checking account. And because your fixed costs are covered and your future self is already funded through automated investments, you can spend that remaining money completely guilt-free.
Really? Just blow it?
Yes. If you want to drop $200 on a pair of shoes, you don't have to check a spreadsheet or feel ashamed. The system has already taken care of the responsibilities.
So it's like building a self-driving car. You do the really hard engineering work up front, getting all the sensors and programming right, and then, once it's built, the machine just runs itself while you take a nap in the back seat.
That is a brilliant analogy. The pros of this method are immense for the modern worker. It requires almost zero ongoing maintenance. Sethi estimates you should spend maybe 90 minutes a month managing your money.
90 minutes a month sounds amazing compared to Ramsey's weekly meetings.
Right. It entirely eliminates financial guilt, which is a massive emotional burden for many people. And brilliantly, it harnesses our natural human laziness for our own benefit.
Because if I'm too lazy to log in and manually transfer money to savings every month, I'm also too lazy to log in and cancel an automated transfer that is already running.
Exactly. My laziness becomes my greatest asset.
But the system can't be flawless. What are the cons?
The cons are that the initial setup can be incredibly complex and intimidating for someone who isn't tech savvy. Linking routing numbers, calculating percentages, ensuring the transfers fire on the correct dates. It takes real, concentrated effort.
I can see that being a barrier.
Furthermore, it inherently requires a relatively stable, predictable income to automate effectively. If your paycheck fluctuates wildly, automated transfers can trigger massive overdraft fees.
Oh, that would be a nightmare. What's the biggest risk if I manage to get the self-driving car on the road?
The fatal risk is lifestyle creep infecting your fixed costs.
What do you mean?
Let's say you get a raise and you immediately lease a more expensive car or move to a luxury apartment. Suddenly, your fixed costs aren't 60% anymore. They've crept up to 75 or 80%.
Ah, I see.
The entire automated system shatters because there isn't enough margin left to fund the savings transfers and the guilt-free spending. The machine just runs out of gas.
So who is the automator most suitable for?
Busy professionals, tech-comfortable individuals, and specifically people who suffer from frugality guilt.
Frugality guilt.
Yeah, meaning they feel a pang of anxiety every time they spend money, even if they can easily afford it. This system gives them psychological permission to enjoy the fruits of their labor.
And who should completely avoid it?
People in severe, crippling credit card debt, or those living paycheck to paycheck with absolutely zero financial margin. If 95% of your income is required just to keep the lights on and avoid eviction, you mathematically cannot automate 20% into savings.
You need the drill sergeant to help you survive first.
Exactly.
What are the common mistakes people make when trying to automate?
One major mistake is keeping bad bank accounts that charge monthly maintenance fees or offer zero interest simply out of loyalty to the bank.
People do that a lot.
They do. Another is doing all the math on paper, but failing to actually log in and establish the automated transfers online. And finally, suffering from subscription creep.
Oh, the subscription.
Sethi warns against the a la carte method, where people subscribe to a dozen streaming services and gym memberships and never audit them. You have to mercilessly cancel the subscriptions you don't actively value to protect that 60% fixed cost barrier.
Let's check back in with the Chen-Davis family. How do David and Wei adapt to the conscious spending plan, especially given Wei's irregular income?
They have to decouple their incomes to make the automation work. They look at David's stable teaching salary. Because it's a fixed amount every month, they automate it. The morning after David gets paid, his checking account automatically funnels 10% to a retirement index fund, and 5% goes to a travel savings account.
That makes sense for David. But what about Wei? If she automates transfers and has a bad freelance month, she'll overdraft.
Exactly. So they use Wei's income differently. They treat Wei's freelance money as a buffer and an accelerator. David's income covers the automated essentials and baseline savings.
Okay, so what happens when Wei gets a big check?
When Wei gets paid, they manually deploy her money to accelerate their goals or pad the emergency fund. But the real magic happens in their spending.
Oh, so?
They apply the spend extravagantly cut, mercilessly rule. They sit down and realize they actually don't care at all about wearing designer clothes, and they don't care about having the newest smartphones. So they cut their clothing and tech budget to absolute zero.
But they love the London food scene.
Right. Because they've automated their savings through David's salary, and because they've mercilessly cut the clothing budget they don't care about, they now have a pool of guilt-free money.
And they spend it all on food.
They pour that money into amazing restaurants in Soho without a single ounce of remorse. They aren't failing at budgeting, they are spending consciously on their highest joy.
That sounds incredibly freeing. It removes the friction from the marriage. But it makes me wonder, Sethi relies so heavily on digital banking, routing numbers, and software. Is this actually a new concept, or is automation just a technological upgrade to a very old piece of human wisdom?
It is absolutely ancient wisdom. Sethi's automation is just the modern execution of a concept that dates back thousands of years. Which brings us to our third methodology, the traditionalist.
Okay, and what's the core of that?
It's centered entirely on the concept of artificial scarcity and the golden rule to pay yourself first.
Okay, we're going back in time. Who are our sources for this?
We're looking at George S. Clason, who wrote the iconic book The Richest Man in Babylon back in the 1920s, and we are pairing him with Thomas Stanley, the researcher and author behind The Millionaire Next Door.
I remember The Richest Man in Babylon. It's written almost like a series of ancient parables. It doesn't read like a finance book at all.
Not at all.
What is the core philosophy here?
The philosophy can be distilled into one single powerful sentence. A part of all you earn is yours to keep.
It sounds painfully obvious.
It does, but it is deeply profound. The philosophy recognizes a psychological phenomenon known as Parkinson's law, which dictates that our expenses will always organically expand to equal our income.
Right, like if you get a raise, you suddenly decide your perfectly fine apartment is too small, and you upgrade to a place with higher rent. You always find a way to spend whatever you make.
Exactly. Therefore, to build wealth, you must create an artificial environment of scarcity. You have to force yourself, by circumstance, to live below your means because your natural inclination will always be to spend it all.
How does that actually work in practice? If I'm not using a zero-based budget, and I'm not using Sethi's complex automated ecosystem, how do I create the scarcity?
It is brutally simple. You take your savings and your investments right off the top of your paycheck before you pay a single bill, before you buy groceries, and before you pay the landlord, hence the phrase, pay yourself first.
Walk me through the actual implementation, like step by step.
First, you decide on a fixed percentage of your income to save. Historically, Clason advocated for 10%, though modern economics suggests 15 to 20% is much safer.
Okay, say 15%.
Yep.
Then what?
Second, the absolute instant you are paid, you move that percentage completely out of reach. You put it in an account that is difficult to access. Third, you simply force yourself to survive on the remaining 85% of your income.
Batch or track it?
Nope. You don't track it, you don't categorize it, you just figure out how to make it work.
It's like baking a massive pie for a dinner party. If you tell yourself, well, I'll just save a slice for myself at the very end of the night after everyone has eaten, it never works.
No, it doesn't.
The guests are going to eat the whole thing. There'll be nothing left but crumbs. You literally have to cut your slice, wrap it in foil, and hide it in the back of the fridge before you even unlock the front door for the guests.
That is the perfect visualization. If you wait for the leftovers, you will starve. You have to secure your peace first.
So what are the pros here?
The pros of this method are that it is historically proven to work across centuries and different economic systems. It is incredibly beautifully simple. And as Thomas Stanley discovered in his extensive research of American wealth, this exact behavior builds what he calls PAWs.
Oh.
Prodigious accumulators of wealth.
Oh, I remember Stanley's research. He found that most actual millionaires don't drive luxury imported cars or live in mega mansions. They live in middle-class neighborhoods and drive used sedans.
Exactly. The millionaire next door doesn't look rich. They quietly built massive net worth over decades by simply saving 15% of their income and forcing themselves to live on the rest. Their secret weapon was artificial scarcity.
But there have to be downsides.
Oh, definitely. The biggest drawback is that it doesn't give you a granular map of how to spend the remaining 85%. If you are someone who needs structure, just being told figure it out can be highly stressful.
And what are the risks?
The primary risk is a mathematical trap. If your absolute survival fixed expenses, rent, basic food, utilities naturally exceed that 85% you've left yourself, you will not magically survive.
The scarcity just becomes real poverty.
Right. The artificial scarcity will backfire. You will inadvertently start relying on credit cards to buy groceries just to make it to the end of the month, secretly digging a massive debt hole while patting yourself on the back for putting 15% in your savings account.
Yikes. So who is this most suitable for?
It is brilliant for high earners who lack discipline. If you make plenty of money but somehow magically spend it all on lifestyle upgrades, creating artificial scarcity will instantly fix your problem. It's also perfect for people who despise spreadsheets and just want a one-step rule for their financial life.
And least suitable for?
Extremely low-income earners. If you mathematically require 100% of your income just to meet basic survival needs and avoid homelessness, you cannot artificially hide 15% of it. The math simply won't allow it.
What's the most common mistake with the pay-yourself-first method?
Reversing the order. People pay the landlord, pay the grocer, pay the utility company, and then promise themselves they will save whatever is left over. Because of Parkinson's law, nothing is ever left over.
Let's take this back to London. How do David and Way apply artificial scarcity?
David and Way look at their total incoming money for the month. Before they even think about London's exorbitant rent or their utility bills or pub prices, they immediately divert 15% to an untouchable index fund.
And then they just deal with the rest?
Yep. They do not track the rest of the money. They simply trick their own psychology into believing that they earn 15% less than they actually do.
What if they run low at the end of the month?
If things get tight, they don't pull from the investments, they eat pasta for 4 days, they force their lifestyle to fit the artificially shrunken paycheck.
That makes total sense. It's a powerful psychological hack.
Yeah.
But, as I'm looking at our stack of sources, I'm realizing something. Ramsey's envelopes, Sethi's automation, Glasson's behavioral trick, they all ultimately treat money as a math problem or a systems optimization problem. But what if the problem is much deeper than that?
Like a philosophical problem.
Yeah, exactly. What if the way we fundamentally view the concept of money itself is flawed?
That is a profound question, and it requires us to shift gears completely into our fourth methodology, the philosopher. This is, without a doubt, the most radical, paradigm-shifting approach we will cover.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Who is the philosopher guiding us here?
We're looking at Vicki Robin, the co-author of the seminal book, Your Money or Your Life. Her method is known as tracking life energy, or the 9-step program.
Okay, so if she doesn't view money as a math problem, what is her philosophy? How does she view money?
Her philosophy is that money is not a currency, is not a mathematical equation, and it is certainly not a status symbol. Money is quite literally life energy.
Life energy, yes.
Yet it represents the actual finite hours of your mortal life that you have traded to an employer in order to exist.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is. The ultimate goal of her system is not to amass a giant pile of cash to buy luxury goods. The goal is to maximize your internal fulfillment and reach what she calls the crossover point.
What's a crossover point?
It's the exact moment where your investment income crosses over your monthly expenses, making you completely financially independent. You don't have to trade your life energy anymore.
So how does this work? It sounds intense and deeply introspective.
It is incredibly intense. It requires you to meticulously track every single penny, calculate your true hourly wage, and then evaluate every single purchase you make against the hours of your finite life it costs you to earn that money.
Wait, hold on. My true hourly wage. Isn't that just basic division?
You would think so.
Like, if I make a salary of roughly $50,000 a year, that's about $1,000 a week. I work 40 hours a week, so my hourly wage is $25 an hour. Boom. Done.
No, and this is where Robin's framework gets truly revolutionary. Step 1 is calculating your real, holistic hourly wage. You don't just count the 40 hours you're physically sitting at your desk. You have to deduct the hidden financial costs of working and add the hidden time costs of working.
Okay, let's do this live. Walk me through it. I make $1,000 a week. After taxes, let's say I bring home $800.
Great. Now, how much do you spend on gas, car maintenance, or train tickets just to commute to that job?
Let's say $50 a week.
Deduct it. You're at $750. Do you buy professional clothes or pay for dry cleaning solely because of your job?
Yeah, probably $20 a week averaged out. Down to $730.
What about convenience food? The lunches you buy because you didn't have time to pack one? Or the expensive takeout you order on a Thursday night because you are entirely too exhausted from work to cook?
Ouch. Yeah, easily $50 a week on that. down to 680.
And what about decompression? The streaming services you binge, the wine you drink, or the therapy you pay for specifically to cope with the stress of your job.
I feel attacked right now.
Yes.
Let's call it another 50. I'm down to $630 of actual net profit from my job.
Okay, now for the time. You work 40 hours. But how long is your commute?
5 hours a week total.
Add it to the 40, so 45 hours. How much time do you spend getting ready, ironing clothes, and decompressing from work stress where you can't actually do anything productive?
Probably another 5 hours at least.
So you are dedicating 50 hours of your life energy to this job and netting $630. Divide 630 by 50. Your true hourly wage isn't $25, it's $12.60.
Wow. That actually changes everything. It cuts my perceived value entirely in half.
Yeah.
It is a completely different lens.
Exactly. Once you have that shocking number, you move to the next steps. You track every single cent that enters and leaves your life.
Every cent. Like a pack of gum.
Every single cent. You categorize those expenses, and then you ask 3 profound questions for every single category. Did I receive fulfillment, satisfaction, and value in proportion to the life energy spent? Is this expenditure of life energy aligned with my deepest values and life purpose? And how would this expenditure change if I didn't have to work for a living?
And what do I do with all that data?
You plot your income and your expenses on a massive physical wall chart in your home. You visually track your progress toward that crossover point, watching the gap between your expenses and your investment income narrow over time.
It's like a nutritional calorie tracker. But instead of tracking food for your physical body, you are tracking the exchange rate of your actual soul and your limited time on Earth.
That is exactly what it is. The pros of Vicki Robin's method are that it creates profound, lasting paradigm shifts. It absolutely destroys mindless consumerism. You stop buying cheap junk online because you realize it's costing you literal pieces of your life.
That makes total sense.
It is highly effective for reaching early retirement. In fact, this book is essentially the founding text of the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early.
But the cons have to be significant.
They are. It is extremely tedious. Tracking every single penny manually, evaluating every purchase philosophically, it can feel obsessive. And for some people, it becomes mentally exhausting to question every cup of coffee.
What are the risks of adopting this philosophy?
It can cause severe friction in relationships. If one partner becomes a dedicated tracker and views a new television as a loss of life energy, and the other partner just wants to relax and watch a movie, it creates massive ideological conflict.
I can see that causing fights.
The book even features a case study of a couple, Mary and Don M., who had to completely separate their finances to save their marriage, because their views on tracking life energy were so fundamentally incompatible.
Who is this most suitable for?
Deep thinkers, philosophers, people who feel empty despite having a lot of stuff and a good salary, and obviously anyone aspiring to retire in their 30s or 40s through the FIRE movement.
And least suitable for?
Highly disorganized people who lose receipts, or those looking for a quick, low-effort fix to their money problems. This isn't a budget, it is a total lifestyle and psychological overhaul.
What are the common mistakes people make here?
Fudging the numbers. Robin warns that a telescope slightly out of alignment won't show the stars. If you don't track accurately, the realization never hits you. Another mistake is feeling guilty about your past spending rather than using the data for objective, non-judgmental awareness to change the future.
Let's bring this back to David and Wei in London. This philosophy has to hit them hard.
It does. David sits down and calculates his true hourly wage as a teacher. He factors in the cost of the tube, the grading he does on weekends that he isn't paid for, the professional clothes. He realizes his true hourly wage is shockingly low.
So when David and Wei look at going out for a 50-pound pub dinner.
Exactly. It doesn't just cost 50 pounds. David realizes that meal costs him over 4 hours of his actual finite life energy.
So they have to look at each other and ask, was this burger and a pint worth 4 hours of my life in a classroom?
Yes. And the result is that the Chen-Davis family's spending drops dramatically. But importantly, it doesn't drop out of a sense of forced restriction, like it did with Ramsey's zero-based budgeting. It drops out of a sudden, organic lack of desire for things that simply do not bring true, lasting fulfillment.
That is so powerful. But, okay, I'm looking at our stack of sources, and I'm seeing a massive, irreconcilable conflict.
Bring it on.
Robin says track every single penny to the decimal to honor your life energy. Sethi says never track pennies, just automate the big stuff. Ramsey says restrict your behavior with strict rules. Stanley says hide the money and live in artificial scarcity.
Right, it's a lot of mixed messages.
How do we reconcile all these wildly conflicting rules in the real world where our very human emotions, our stress, and our traumas ruin our best logical plans?
To synthesize these conflicts, we turn to our fifth and final methodology, the behavioralist. This approach acknowledges that we are human, and it focuses entirely on behavioral system design.
Who are our guides for synthesizing this?
We are looking at Emma Edwards, the author of Good with Money, and we are blending her work with the theories of Nobel laureate Richard Thaler, the author of Misbehaving.
What is their main philosophy regarding our chaotic human emotions?
The core philosophy is that our underlying beliefs constantly inform our behaviors. You cannot fight your primal brain, your deeply ingrained money trauma, or your emotional impulses with a cold, logical spreadsheet. It is a losing battle.
I've definitely lost that battle.
Most of us have. Instead, you must build a financial ecosystem that actively accounts for human error, self-sabotage, and emotional spending. You expect to fail, so you design a system that catches you.
I want to understand the mechanics of this. How does it work?
It works by utilizing a concept Richard Thaler pioneered called mental accounting. Human beings naturally put money into mental buckets. We treat money differently depending on where it came from and where it is stored.
Can you give me an example of mental accounting, make it make sense to me?
Absolutely. Thaler uses a famous example about a movie theater. Imagine you walk to a theater to buy a $10 ticket. As you walk up to the box office, you realize you lost a $10 bill from your wallet. Do you still buy the ticket?
Probably, yeah. I just use another $10.
Most people say yes. But imagine a second scenario. You pre-bought a $10 ticket. You walk up to the door, realize you lost the physical ticket, and the theater says you have to buy a new one. Do you buy it?
Ooh. Honestly, no. I feel like I was paying $20 for a movie, which is a ripoff.
But wait, in both scenarios, you are exactly $10 poorer. The math is identical.
Exactly, but it feels different.
That's the point. The math is identical, but the psychology is entirely different. In the first scenario, the lost $10 belonged to a general wallet bucket. In the second scenario, the lost ticket belonged to a specific movie bucket, and you refuse to overdraw that specific mental account.
That is wild, but so true.
Emma Edwards takes this quirk of human psychology and applies it to physical bank accounts, setting up designated spend and keep channels with built-in engineered buffers.
Okay, let's get into the implementation steps. How do I build this ecosystem?
First, you streamline your expenses to make them predictable. If you have an annual car registration bill of $520, you divide it by 52 weeks. You automatically save $10 a week into a micro account. You flatten the spikes.
Makes sense.
Second, you establish your workable total. This is the money left over after all those fixed, streamlined costs are handled. Third, you separate that workable total into clear spend and keep channels using entirely different bank accounts, often called sinking funds or buckets.
Okay, and I see a step here called establishing a new zero. What is that?
This is a brilliant behavioral trick. You log into your primary checking account and you pretend that a specific buffer amount, let's say $100, is absolute zero.
So if I have $100, I'm broke.
Exactly. If your balance hits $100, you are functionally broke. You train your brain to panic at 100, not at 0. This ensures you never actually overdraft, giving you a perpetual safety net.
And the final step.
You apply the acronym PMAE. Permission, margin for error, autonomy, and ease. You have to give yourself permission to spend without guilt. You must build in a margin for when you inevitably mess up. You need autonomy so you don't feel like a prisoner to your own rules. And you must make the right choices incredibly easy to execute.
It's like building a custom house. Instead of living in one giant, chaotic studio apartment where your savings, your rent money, and your vacation money are all mixed together on the floor, which causes immense stress. You build specific rooms with doors.
Yes.
You have the grocery room, the vacation room, the emergency room. You can look at a room and know exactly what is inside.
That is precisely how mental accounting works in practice. The pros of this method are that it is deeply emotionally intelligent. It forgives mistakes rather than punishing them. It actively combats what Edwards calls sabotage Sam.
Sabotage Sam.
That negative critical voice in your head that makes you want to quit the entire budget the moment you overspend on a Tuesday.
Are there cons to being this emotionally accommodating?
Yes. It requires deep, sometimes very uncomfortable self-reflection on your personal money trauma and underlying beliefs before you even open the accounts. You have to understand why you overspend. If you don't do the psychological work, The buckets are just empty gimmicks.
What are the risks of this ecosystem approach?
Creating entirely too many micro accounts. If you have 20 different sinking funds for every conceivable life event, the system becomes overly convoluted and impossible to manage. You lose track of the big picture.
Who is this most suitable for?
Emotional spenders, people who have deep anxiety or trauma around money, and specifically individuals who have tried rigid budgets in the past and failed because they subconsciously rebelled against the severe restriction.
At least suitable for.
Purely analytical, highly logical, math-brained people who genuinely do not struggle with the emotional side of spending. If you are a person who can flawlessly execute a single spreadsheet without emotional friction, you don't need to build this elaborate ecosystem.
What are the common mistakes here?
Relying on artificial motivation, setting up all these buckets on a Sunday when you feel highly motivated, but not designing the system to survive the days when your motivation completely vanishes. Also, failing to actually fund the margin for error bucket, leaving you vulnerable when you make a mistake.
Let's check in with David and Wei one last time. How do they use this behavioral ecosystem to solve their unique friction?
Well, Wei's freelance income is deeply unpredictable, and that unpredictability causes her immense stress and emotional anxiety. It makes her feel unsafe. So they design an ecosystem to fix the emotion, not just the math.
How do they do that?
All of Wei's freelance income goes directly into a specific holding account. It's a mental bucket they pretend doesn't exist for daily spending. They don't touch it directly. Instead, they use that bucket to pay Wei a fixed, predictable salary every single month.
Oh, that is brilliant. That completely smooths out the unpredictability. She has a steady paycheck now.
Exactly. And furthermore, they know David loves buying books. It's his weakness, and it used to cause arguments. Instead of fighting it, they build a specific margin for error account funded with a small amount each month, specifically for when David inevitably overspends at the bookstore.
So they just expect him to fail.
Basically, yeah. When he does, the money is already there to cover it. It prevents shame and guilt from derailing their entire financial plan. They engineered the system to expect the flaw.
Okay, what an incredible journey through all this material. Looking at this massive stack of research, I'm trying to find the connective tissue. It is fascinating that these wildly different philosophies, Ramsey's rigid envelopes, Sethi's automated self-driving car, Robin's spiritual calculation of life energy, and Edwards' emotional ecosystem, they all ultimately aim at the exact same goal: financial freedom and peace of mind.
They absolutely do. And as we move into our grand synthesis, it's time to bring all these threads together. Let's distill this down by answering 4 critical questions that naturally arise when you look at all these experts side by side.
Perfect. Question number 1. Looking at the entire landscape, what is the single biggest lesson we can extract from all these sources combined?
The overarching lesson is that personal finance is almost entirely about psychology, not mathematics.
Psychology, not math.
Yes. Whether you were using Ramsey's envelopes to get a dopamine hit from the debt snowball, Sethi's automation to hide money from your lazy self, or Edwards' behavioral ecosystem to combat your anxiety, the fundamental goal is to trick your primate brain into better behavior. The math is simple. The human mind is complex. You simply cannot out-math bad habits.
Question 2. Looking at all these brilliant, often contradictory authors, where do they all completely agree? What is the universal truth?
They all agree on the non-negotiable rule of paying yourself first. Whether it's Georges Clason talking about ancient Babylon, John Bogle advocating for untouchable index funds, or Ramit Sethi with his automatic money flow, every single expert agrees on this point. If you wait to save whatever is miraculously left over at the end of the month, you will fail because of Parkinson's law. You must secure your future before you fund your present.
Question 3. What is the most interesting philosophical difference or conflict between them?
The most fascinating conflict is their fundamentally different perspectives on scarcity versus abundance.
Okay, expand on that.
Ramsey and Robin focus heavily on restriction. They advocate for cutting back, sacrificing, and recognizing enough to find peace in having less. They believe in shrinking your lifestyle. On the exact opposite side, Sethi and Stanley focus on optimizing and abundance.
Right, expanding.
Sethi explicitly argues that there is a hard limit to how much you can cut from a budget, but there is absolutely no limit to how much you can earn. He advocates for expanding your income to fit your life, rather than shrinking your life to fit your income.
All right, final question. Theories are great, but we need action. What are 3 specific, highly actionable steps a person could take this week to actually change their financial trajectory based on everything we've discussed?
Step 1. Calculate your real hourly wage. Take Vicki Robin's challenge this weekend. Factor in your commute, the clothes you buy for work, the convenience food you buy because you're exhausted, and the hours you spend decompressing.
Yeah, that math hurt me earlier.
It does. Find out what an hour of your life is actually worth. It will completely change how you view your next purchase.
What's step 2?
Step 2, automate one single transfer. Just one. Pick an amount, even if it's just $20, and set it to automatically transfer from your checking to your savings the exact day after you get paid. Prove to yourself that the self-driving car works.
And step 3?
Step 3, establish a new zero. Log into your checking account today, look at the balance, and mentally declare that $100 or the equivalent in your currency is your absolute zero line. Build your margin for error right now before you need it.
Those are incredible, concrete challenges. As we wrap up this session of Amateurology, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. It comes from Morgan Housel's brilliant book, The Psychology of Money. After reading all these systems on how to accumulate wealth, Housel writes something that stops you in your tracks. Wealth is what you don't see.
It's so deeply true. We see the flash, we see the outward spending, we don't see the wealth.
Exactly. Wealth is the luxury cars not purchased. It's the diamonds not bought. It's the expensive dinner you declined. True financial success isn't about looking rich to your neighbors. It's about the invisible, quiet freedom of having options. It's about waking up on a Tuesday and knowing you actually control your own time.
Because at the end of the day, as Vicki Robin taught us, money is just life energy.
So as you go forward, choose the financial system that actually fits your mind, your emotions, and your unique quirks. Not just the system that makes the math look pretty on a spreadsheet. Because as we established at the start, if you rely on the brute force of willpower to lift that heavy financial weight, your muscles will eventually give out. Don't fight your brain. Design a system that works with it. Thanks for joining us for this exploration. We'll see you next time.